So wait. Hello and welcome to the Alpha Artists interview series. I'm Renata Thom, a co-founder at Alpha, B2B crowdsourced, purpose-driven platform. This initiative highlights some of the best artists we have on the platform, and it has a goal to enlighten artists and collectors on how we can be collaborating, how Alpha can be at your service. So for the interview today, we have Kelly Ording. Kelly, welcome, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
I would love to start asking you, how is your quarantine going? And how are you feeling about this whole crazy situation that we're living?
Yeah, thank you. So nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me. It's going pretty well. It's going pretty well. I guess it's been like 2 months now that we've kind of been in the lockdown. So I'm in Oakland, California, and we've been like pretty conservative here. I think like San Francisco is one of the first cities to kind of go in lockdown, and we're still closed. Like, I don't really think any restaurants or anything are opening quite yet. But we're doing good. I have 2 kids, so I'm kind of also doing like a homeschooling thing. So that's kind of the most different. At first it was funny because it wasn't like that different than my normal kind of schedule, because my studio is at my house and I kind of spend a lot of time by myself anyways working, so it wasn't terribly different. But definitely having the kids at home now is a big like change to the schedule. And but I mean, it's also like gives a really nice opportunity to kind of like spend a lot of time with them, see what they're working on in school. I'm learning all sorts about 4th grade math again that I forgot about, fractions.
Yeah, and I feel that every parent right now is challenged by the fact that they have to be with their kids homeschooling, like, and go through so many different subjects that like they don't feel comfortable anymore. We've all learned about this, but like it's locked like somewhere in our heads, and we did not think about that like in so many years.
No, yeah, my son is in 6th grade, and his math now, I'm like kind of out of it. He'll turn and be like, how do you do circumference times the radius? And I'm like, ooh, we need to look it up. It's embarrassing.
Yeah. No, I can't imagine. But we at Alpha, like I am, like, and like all of our team, we're big fans of your work. But a lot of people who are listening to us don't really know it as well, like as we do. So could you please tell us a little bit more about your practice and how did you become this amazing artist?
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm a painter primarily. So I work mostly on paper, canvas, a little bit of collage, a little bit of, I just kind of started getting into sculpture maybe a year ago or so. But yeah, for my paintings, I usually start with like a dyeing process, which is basically like I use coffee and salt and kind of like go through a long process of like just preparing the actual paper or canvas. And on top of that, I'll go with like this really like, usually like very intricate line work or like different dyes of color. And I kind of I kind of feel like I have like 2 bodies of work. One is more of like an abstract landscape. So it kind of focuses on like a classic horizon line. And then on top of that, it'll go like, it's almost offering to the viewer like a place that kind of looks familiar, but isn't like specific. So I think a lot of this work was like inspired by a lot of travel I used to do when I was younger, and just kind of memories I had of places. And for me, it's really important to kind of like give the viewer something that they can decide for themselves what it is or where it is. So it's interesting to me. People will come up looking at that kind of work and say like, is this Scotland or is this New Zealand? Or, you know, and depending on where they've been or their own experience, they kind of like see that in the work. And then another body of work is, I call it like abstract geometric work. And that's like very geometry based. And so it's kind of like a little bit more intentional than the landscape work, because I kind of have a set composition already laid out. And then it's just kind of like following through with the work. So it uses a lot more like shapes and angles, repetitive line work. And that work, it's kind of like I feel like the both bodies of work are like two different sides of the brain, like a very like, the landscape is very like intuition and very loose. And then the like, it's like very tight and rigid. And it kind of just like feeds into both these places that I kind of want to go depending on where I'm at that day.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you say that, because when we say, oh, you're an artist, like people immediately thinking like creative, intuitive, but like there is a very systematic way like on the process of creating most of times, you know, like you really need to have a routine, like, and put on the hours to do your practice. So I'd love to know from you like a little bit more about like how is your creative practice like usually, and what has changed, like you mentioned kids like during this pandemic.
Oh yeah, it's definitely changed.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is like really the schedule. I was so lucky before. I mean, I knew I was lucky, but I'm really like appreciating before, because I worked a lot, like probably, you know, 6 days a week in my studio for, I don't know, 10 hours a day or something like that. And so I had like a lot of time to really like, you know, sit with ideas, think about, work through different pieces. And then now my work has kind of like cut down, the working time is cut down by like 50%. So my husband is an artist too. He's a painter.
Oh, that's amazing. What a creative house. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're very lucky in that both of us are home right now. But basically, so what we'll do is like, I'll work one day and then do the homeschooling one day, work one day and then do the homeschooling one day. So it's really like cut up, and anytime you feel like you're getting like a flow with something or a new idea, like the next day you stop and then you start and stop. So I guess it's working for us. I mean, I think that's just the best way it's been working, but it's definitely like you leave something, an idea on the table, and then when you come back to it the next night or the following day, it's like, what is this a good idea? Do I want to continue with it? You know, it's like it leads to a lot more second guessing, whereas I think before you just kind of roll and you just like keep rolling with a piece. So
yeah, it gives you an opportunity to mature the ideas in a way. And I think that would lead me to my next question. In your opinion, what is one of the best things about being an artist, and what is one of the worst things about being an artist?
I think the best thing is just, I mean, I think like working for yourself, and it's so much freedom. Like I feel so lucky that I just have this opportunity to create things, and people like support that and find value in what I create. Like it's so lucky, you know, that I'm doing like exactly what I want to be doing with my time. Like I work a lot, but it never feels like I'm working, you know. It's just like I get to go to this place every day of exactly where I want to be, and I can change that place in my mind, depending on what I'm working on, a painting or, you know. So I think that's the best thing, is that I'm just given so much freedom to do what I want. And then the worst thing, I think it's kind of the same thing in a way, is that when you are working for yourself, it is a lot of it's a lot of hours. Like, I think you do end up sacrificing a lot, because you do have to rely on yourself so much. So while I do say those hours that I do work, it doesn't feel like working. It's also like these hours that I'm not hanging out with friends, or spending a ton of time with my family, so I think that time also is sacrificed, you know. I think like anytime you work for yourself, you're just like really, I mean, you guys are probably the same, being business owners. Yeah,
there is definitely a very creative, like, and vulnerable, like, side when, like, you're like, you know, like, you're a creator, like, of a business. So, like, in a way, like, it's the same sort of, like, feeling. And there's a very practical, like, side when, like, you have to put in the hours, like, you have to, like, you know, be there, present physically, and create the context in a way for, like, the, like, creation to arrive. But wasn't there a moment in your life, a situation, point of inflection maybe, that, like, you think changed your path or led you to, like, you know, become this amazing artist that you are, or like maybe like an insight or something, like that something that you can remember, you know, that like was like crucial for you to like take that leap of faith, like, and become like what you are today?
Yeah, I think like what you were saying earlier, I think definitely when we had kids, because I was working full time when I was pregnant, and then we had kids, and that kind of completely changed just the way I work. Like, I used to have just this kind of, even though I was working a job at the same time, I had like a lot more, and I guess my career hadn't really like gotten so busy yet, so I did have a lot of time just to like focus on the body of work and like kind of build up this whole language that I have now. But it was very like, you could really just sit for days and days like staring at one painting, and that was fine, you know. But then the minute you have kids, your time just gets like this like crunch, and you have to really make like every moment matter. And so I think I just started working completely differently, and where my work really was before, like very like gestural and free, it started to become much more like controlled and intricate and like meditational. Like, there's a lot of repetition in the work, and I think that was just like a product of me trying to control something about my life. I think when you're like a new mother, you just feel like you have no idea what you're doing. you're like,
at least one part of your life needs to be like under control, right?
Yeah, and I didn't realize I was doing that until way later. You know, I was like, oh, I understand, like this part of my life is like so out of control. And so in order to balance that, I'm kind of working in this way that's like very like meditational and really concentrated. And so that definitely, that changed. Having kids definitely changed my work.
I can imagine. Kathleen, it has been amazing talking to you, but we are running out of time, and I would love to end this conversation with a suggestion from you, something that is keeping you inspired, and that could be a book you've read recently, or a movie, TV show, or maybe like someone, you know, something like what is keeping you inspired and with your spirit high.
Yeah, well, I started watching, so I'm like a huge basketball fan, and right now in the States it would be like playoff season right now. So because basketball is not being played right now, it's like so sad for me. But they have a new like documentary about the Chicago Bulls on. And
The
so
last
that's
dance. Yeah.
yeah, The Last Dance. It's amazing. It's amazing for a basketball fan because you get to watch basketball, but also for people that don't know that much about basketball because
Yeah.
you just learn about Michael Jordan, who is this like fierce competitor, and it's just really uplifting. Kind of brings you back to the days when things were more normal.
Absolutely. Well, Kelly, thank you so much. We're gonna have to end right now, but it has been a pleasure again.
Thank
And
you, Renata, so much. Nice to see you.
yeah, nice to see you. I actually need to like turn off the camera now
Yeah,
because we have another webinar. Manuela has been
I
shouting
know.
at me.
I can hear the beeping. I'm like, sorry. Bye.
Bye.